of the most famous commandments that we have in the entire Torah is in this week's Parsha. It's a commandment that bespeaks a universal idea, and it's also a commandment that is unusual because it's linked to a reward. Ordinarily, the Torah tells us what to do, and because the Torah tells us, we do it. There's such a thing as a gezeres hakasuv. The Torah says, we do. But we have an unusual circumstance that the Torah not only tells us what to do, but the Torah tells us why we are to do it. And this is the mitzvah of honoring parents. Kavedes avicha v'asimecha. But not only should you honor your parents, but the Torah says, why? L'man yarichun yamecha. In order that your days should be lengthened, that your days should be extended. Beautiful concept. Honor your parents, and you'll live long. Who is assuring the lengthening of days? Ostensibly, it's Hashem. Hashem is providing length of days. So really, the Torah should have said, L'man ya'arich, in order that He should lengthen, that Hashem should lengthen your days on this earth. Why does it say L'man ya'arichun? You should lengthen your days? Or they should lengthen your days in the plural? I'd like to share with you a story. Rabbi Nachman Mendel Hager was the Vishnitzer Rebbe at the beginning of the 20th century. Vishnitz, at the time, was in the Bukovine section of Austria. Today it's in the Ukraine. And in 1910, this Vishnitzer Rebbe, who was known by the work that he wrote, the Imre Chaim, or with the pronunciation that he and his Hasidim would have used, Imre Chaim. So he once went to visit a certain nearby town, Volchowitz. And when he came to Volchowitz, so there was a dispute that was taking place between a certain family. There was a man who had passed away, and he had an estate, and the heirs were fighting over the estate. And they came to the Rebbe and they said, Rebbe, help us settle this dispute. The Rebbe was well aware of the fact that when the man who had passed away was very sick, members of the family came and had him sign various documents. In other words, before he had passed away, they were trying to claim aspects of his inheritance. And so the Rebbe said, okay, I will settle your dispute, and I will do so when I speak at Shalosh Shudas. Everybody was very surprised. Ordinarily, in order to settle a dispute, you listen to both sides, or 3 sides, or 4 sides. You listen to the various litigants, you assess their claims, and then you make a decision. And also, when it comes to the rendering of a judgment, you don't do it on Shabbos, and you certainly don't do it in public. Shalosh Shudas, such an odd time. But nonetheless, out of respect and reverence and deference to the great Imre Chaim, nobody said anything. And came Shalosh Shudas, and it was this week's Parsha, and the Rebbe said, why doesn't it say L'man Yarich? Why does it say L'man Yarichun? That you should lengthen the days? And he said, can you imagine a situation where children show great respect and honor to parents? And imagine a parent who is elderly, and when the parent is elderly, the children do everything that they can to provide for the aging parent. If the parent is ill, they get the best doctors, they get the best medicines, they provide round-the-clock care. Can you imagine such a thing? That's the way it should be. And what happens? The grandchildren see this, and they see the way their parents are taking care of an aging parent. And when their parents become old, they know how to treat their parents. So the Imre Chaim said, in such a situation, that's Laman Yarichun Yamecha. Take care of your parents, honor them, show them respect in their lifetime, so that your days will be lengthened, because your children will take care of you. But, said the Rebbe, can you imagine if the children look at an aging parent and they decide, I can now take advantage and figure out the best way to get the largest share of an inheritance? What do the grandchildren see? The grandchildren see greed. The grandchildren see disregard for a parent. And when it becomes their turn, they too, instead of lengthening the days of parents by taking care of them, they will shorten the days of the parents by just trying to take advantage and capitalize. The Imre Chaim had delivered his message. I think in our time, with this pandemic, we have to remember that through a kind word, we can lengthen the lives of others. We unfortunately are not able to be in social contact today. We don't have that opportunity. But although we are greatly limited, we can nonetheless find ways to reach out to others. Obviously, our parents, our children, our siblings. But also to those who are a little bit more far removed from us, so that we can make sure that they're not forgotten. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to think about perhaps those who we have not been in contact with, and ask ourselves, maybe I can reach out, send an email, a text message, send a gift through the mail. Everything can be done through online ordering. And in that way, I think we not only lengthen the lives of others, but we can lengthen our own lives. I have to tell you, this past week, I observed the 15th yard site of my late father, Zatzal. And a couple days before the yard site, a man appeared at the tent outside in the parking lot. And he was not from our community. Unfortunately, as a child, he was very ill, was at shop in the PICU. And he tells me that a man saw him and saw that he was clearly religious. And this man starts to talk to him. And the man who started to talk to him, turns out he's Jewish and actually has somewhat of a background. And he asked if he could borrow the man's tefillin to put on the tefillin. And they got to talking. And this man tells me, he says, I don't know who your father was, but this man told me that your father performed his wedding. And when he started to talk about your late father and the joy that he infused into his wedding, he said it's what made him maintain his connection to Yiddishkeit, to Yahadus. It was a very beautiful story for me to hear. In fact, I tracked the man down. We've been in contact. Sent me actually nice pictures from the wedding. It's a beautiful story. But it reminded me how, with just a little bit of effort, we can find ways. We can show and demonstrate that we care. We can lengthen someone's life. We can give them a sense of joy, a sense of happiness, and a sense of purposeness. So in this state of solitude, I call upon you, reach out to somebody else, bring them a little bit closer, make them feel special, make them feel loved, in order that you lengthen your days. Good Shabbos.